Go ahead and get started, and as we do, we will have a quick introduction and a couple of logistics. If you have any questions, please go ahead and type them into the Q&A chat box. Danica will be monitoring those, and we'll either get to them during the presentation or at the very end. So again, thanks for coming, and we hope the information is very helpful and strategic to your organization. My name is Mark Severance. I have worked for many years as a Director of Cloud Sales at RKL eSolutions and work very closely with growing entertainment companies to help them use technology in really effective and strategic ways. So looking forward to the conversation today, and I will be doing so, hosting this with my colleague, David Cieslak. David, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. David Cieslak. I'm a CPA by background. Got my start at Pricewaterhouse many years ago, but working in the mid-market ERP space for close to 30 years now, and just passionate about helping our customers really just align their requirements with the very best ERP solutions in the marketplace.
Excellent. And then just a brief introduction about RKL. RKL partners with growing entertainment companies to provide financial management software solutions and industry-specific consulting expertise. So we work with a number of different types of solutions. We call them best-in-class solutions, meaning that they lead their various categories, and you can see some of those bullet points there down at the bottom of the slide. Everything from financial management and ERP to budgeting and planning, also corporate performance management, AP automation, month-end close, employee expense management, just to name a few. On the right-hand side there, you'll see some of the clients within the entertainment industry with whom we have worked over the years. We love these folks, and we are so proud of the amazing success that they have achieved, and it's been our distinct pleasure to be able to partner with them and assist with technology, consulting expertise as a way to help just boost their amazing success. So today we are going to be talking about how to become a more strategic partner for the organization. The accounting and the finance teams, that's really our focus. That's what we help with our technology as well as with our expertise, our service expertise. And so we recognize that this department plays a vitally important role in organizations. And we recognize that there are challenges to efficiency, challenges to productivity, challenges to being strategic. And this past year has only heightened those challenges. All of the related challenges with a global pandemic and working from home and lack of connectivity and working together and all the rest. So we really want to be able to address the challenge. We'll talk a little bit about what the problem is, which we won't spend too much time on that. Then we'll talk about specific steps that you can take to be able to be more strategic, to be able to approach the problems and look for solutions. And then we'll end with a little bit of a lightning round, kind of a top 10 list of what we have seen our clients do and successfully implement so that they are a more strategic partner for the organization. So with that as an intro, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide here, and we'll talk a little bit about the sad reality that in many accounting and finance departments of growing entertainment companies, there is a whole lot of unproductivity. And I don't know if unproductivity is a word, but we're just going to roll with it today. And similar to what we look at with, say, the food pyramid, we think about the time that accounting and finance personnel spend throughout their day, throughout their week, and there are important components, tasks that they need to include in their day if they're going to be productive. And just like the food pyramid, you want the bulk of the pyramid, the bottom or the foundation of the pyramid, to be filled with those tasks and those items that are most strategic, that provide the most value for the organization. But unfortunately, sometimes it feels like the pyramid is a little bit out of whack. So this is some of the things that our friends in accounting and finance and growing entertainment companies tend to be involved in. Entering transactions, checking for errors, manually updating spreadsheets, messing with suboptimal technology, and you can read the rest. Looking for information, asking others for help, manually updating some more spreadsheets, and all the rest. Unfortunately, this is not where the value of an individual or a department lies. And yet, because of the challenges of technology that is either dated or designed for smaller, simpler companies, they're just not able to spend their time in the most strategic ways. Now, as we move up the pyramid, there are some things that are important, and you need to be able to create reports or collaborate with colleagues to be able to figure out how to solve common challenges. All those are really important, but you see there tends to be less time devoted to those. And then when we get to the very top of the pyramid that represents the least time spent, it's really those things that we say, boy, if we were freed up to be more strategic, we could provide amazing value, amazing impact to the rest of the organization with that data analysis and strategic planning. So you can see as we move up the pyramid, the strategic value of those activities is really where we want to get to. But because the reality with technology that isn't optimized and just doing things the way that we've always done them, the time spent, the bulk of it tends to be more on the manual, data-intensive, least strategic activities. So this is the problem, and we just wanted to share that with you. Unfortunately, it's far too common in growing companies. We just want to start with reality and then to come up with ideas about how are we going to help solve the problems. So this next slide, I want to be able to ask David to speak to what should be goals, 3 goals for every finance leader in light of the unproductivity pyramid.
Thanks, Mark. And so as you just shared, it really is, too many organizations. In fact, I would say the majority of organizations today still are spending time on high effort, low value tasks. And that's taking them away from limiting their ability to really focus on the more strategic things within the organization. And so really for every finance leader, every conversation we enter into today, we really kind of lead with how can we kind of do a 180 on that, flip the pyramid and really help the finance and accounting team focus on those high value items. And so really at the heart of all of that really is automating that redundant, that low value work and thereby freeing up the team to focus on those more strategic and higher value efforts. And so really it's changing the role of the finance and accounting team as we think about really just how they spend their day. And so that really is at kind of the foundation of just what we are looking to try to move them toward, away from maybe a kind of a legacy model, high effort, low value, to that, revised model, that better model of really high value, low effort. Mark?
Excellent. Well, that is great. And I would imagine that if we had open mics for feedback, that every single person on this presentation would be like, yeah, yippee yahoo, let's do this. But the main question then becomes is, how do we do that, right? How do we do that? How are we going to accomplish these 3 very important goals? So let's kind of move to that. And David, I'll go ahead and flip it back to you to talk about this slide.
Certainly. And so I know you said you weren't quite sure that was a proper English word, but we'll go with it. So the unproductivity audit, really looking for those opportunities, looking for those high effort, low value, types of situations within the organization. So think about financial and operational reporting, think about process, think about integration with other company critical systems. Those are some of the key areas where really we're finding that, just we can almost immediately uncover this unproductivity, these inefficiencies and this kind of lost effort, as it were. And so really, if we kind of line up around those 3 core concepts, those 3 key areas, that's probably the best place to start our journey.
Yeah, excellent. So as we think about those and we identify things that are really kind of broken, those also have the most opportunity for value, lost value to recover it and really make some significant gains. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about what that unproductivity audit could look like. And I don't know, I'm starting to really like the unproductivity word. Maybe I should trademark that. I mean, just in case it really catches on and people really start to use it. Maybe I'll wait till after the webcast. So, all right. So audit step number one is identify Excel abuse. And what is Excel abuse? Excel is a great application. It can do amazing things, and often we feel like we barely scratch the surface of all the amazing things that it can do. But when we think about Excel abuse in a lot of accounting and finance departments, it means that Excel is easy, everyone's used it for a long time, everyone knows it, and so it becomes the default mechanism for every single thing that doesn't have a previous way of accomplishing any task or any process. And so what happens is spreadsheets begin to multiply, and the number of spreadsheets just grows in a way that all of a sudden you look around and you think, wow, we have dozens or scores, or some organizations even have hundreds of different spreadsheets. So as we think about identifying it and how do we root it out or improve automation capabilities, we really need to start with documenting every use of Excel. And yes, there's a little bit of irony that probably the best way to do that documentation is in one more spreadsheet. But the reason for that, I think it'll make sense to do so. Once we document every use of Excel, we think it's important to be able to categorize how it's being utilized. So not just putting it in a big list, but also then to say, okay, in different components of the organization or different departments, how are we utilizing these spreadsheets so that you really start to get a handle on where is the most significant challenge. From there, it's important to sort of rank the severity of the problem. In some cases, let's face it, an Excel spreadsheet might be the best, easiest, simplest way to be able to tackle a smaller problem. But after you document and categorize and then rank, then you can add to say, well, what is the optimal solution? So get all of it documented, put it in a spreadsheet, better understand how significant the challenge is, and then ask the question, can we better leverage our current technology? Perhaps there are some things that you already have that you just haven't taken advantage of and that wouldn't require perhaps a new investment or a lot of time or money from the systems that you already have. The flip side is that might not be the case. And you can say, wow, we have limited or older technology and we're simply not going to get there from here. So that would be one other component. And then for those that perhaps are just not that big of a deal, you say, we are going to focus on the fires that are burning the brightest. We're going to focus on our highest value problems, those that came up with a really significant rank. And so we'll just choose to ignore some of them for now or for the foreseeable future. So number one, identify Excel abuse. David, what's number two?
All right, so another step in our unproductivity audit is really kind of looking at paper. And I know, so often throughout the years, people talk about paperless, or just less paper. But really in today's environment, there's really little, if any, reason that we should be retaining much, if any, paper. And so when we think about scanning documents, we think about, really attaching those to transactions, that should be, core to any kind of, strategy or solution that we're considering. And so how do we go about really just evaluating where we stand today? Look at our use of paper. Are we still, handling physical invoices? Are we still looking at, individual, documents, agreements, and similar to what we were doing with documenting Excel abuse, we're going to do the same thing here. Look at our use of paper. And really, again, would suggest doing this electronically, not on paper. But let's categorize that. Let's rank the severity, and let's understand, what does an optimal solution look like? Maybe we do have some of the technology in place that'll, help us transition from such a paper-intensive format to something with far less paper, and or maybe we need to identify an add-on or an entirely new solution that really has that kind of baked in, that really supports that at the kind of the most fundamental and foundational level. But if nothing else, these COVID times have really kind of revealed that if we were a paper-intensive, paper-heavy environment beforehand, what does that look like when we now try to, move to a mobile workforce. We've got people working from home. Really, that kind of lays bare the challenges of being so paper intensive. And so really there's almost an immediate area where we should be recognizing some gains, but we got to document that, understand that, and what does that potentially look like, and its impact on the organization. Next slide, Mark.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. So we've got identify Excel abuse, pinpoint paper abuse, and by the way, David, every time you say unproductivity, that's going to cost you a quarter here in the very near future. So just be prepared for that. All right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm just warning you for ahead of time. All right. Next step 3, go for it.
All right. So you just explore data intersections, and by that we mean the places where there's redundancy. In our processes, redundancy in data entry. It's an opportunity potentially for 2 versions of the truth. It's opportunities. It's clearly, extra work. We've got, maybe the same data going into multiple systems, multiple points of entry, and so it really creates a, just not just extra effort, but potentially even just some lack of synchronization between the data. What is the correct information if it's living in multiple systems? So again, look for those opportunities to say, where are we potentially touching the same data, entering it into multiple systems, and creating almost creating our own set of problems. And we're going to want to look across the different systems that we're using: accounting, payroll, expense management. Too often, we've talked about data silos. Well, in today's world, we've got opportunities to connect those key systems and enter data once and have it flow to where it needs to go. So think and just consider, what would the ideal sequence look like? This should be the point of entry. The information should flow from point A to point B. And so really that should be part of that kind of whiteboard architecture, really just kind of reimagination of the system. And again, look for those points of redundancy. We'll call them data intersections, and let's look for ways to optimize that such that it's going to make good sense from a process flow perspective. And as we've kind of talked about in the first 2 examples, better leverage current tech, and or implement a new solution. And we're really going to, with each one of these, kind of rank priority on these, try to understand the impact on the organization. And we're going to always, try to say, let's address the most severe, the most impactful areas first, because that's where we're going to be able to recognize some of the most immediate benefit. Mark?
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, David. So after we identify the Excel abuse, we pinpoint the paper problems, we're exploring data intersections, it's really important that this is not just an individual exercise, but that we pull in the rest of the team, or we pull the team, and we just have 5 or 6 questions. Sometimes these are just unique ways to be able to get at the same problem. And so here are questions that sometimes are perhaps elicit some emotion, and oh wow, that's really helpful, but if you were king or queen for a day, what are the top 3 things that you would change? How could you add more value to the company? What are the top 3 tasks you're currently performing for which you did not go to college, right? Those are some of those things to say, I didn't go to college to enter transactions or to update more and more spreadsheets. So it's those types of things that you say, there's got to be a better way. And ask those questions, make sure that you've got detailed answers, and then dovetail those with the first 3 parts of the audit, so that then you say, okay, now we have a really good understanding of reality, and we understand what are the areas that provide the potential for the most benefit if we were to mitigate or completely solve those challenges. So that would be the 4 steps in the unproductivity audit. And after that's performed, you have a good documentation, a good understanding of reality, and then it's going to be really important to be able to align with the executive team. David?
Yeah, so the executive team, once we've done all that work, once we've documented, prioritized, looked for opportunities for improvement, we want to make certain that throughout we're actually engaging and aligning with the executive team to make certain that, corporate priorities are also, really kind of factored in or, reconciled to that. So in understanding, what the requirements are, real-time information, reduce risk, increase profitability, and all of that's going to give some context. All of that's going to, help kind of galvanize the prioritization of what we're looking to do. And ultimately we'll come away with really just a ranked, just the to-do list, a prioritized list saying, here's how we think we can transform the accounting finance function, the organization, and move toward that strategic role. Mark?
Yeah, and I really, really agree with that, and just want to be able to emphasize that here in kind of that second bullet point down toward the bottom of the slide. Ultimately, we need to be able to show the executive team, those who are ultimately green lighting any projects, to say, how do the overall company goals then align with the accounting and finance department automation efforts, right? Without that, there's probably going to be not a whole lot of willingness to say, yes, let's do this, let's solve these problems. And I think until we are able to do that, then we're going to be stymied in our efforts. Now, again, unfortunately, in some companies, I'm sure this is not the case for any participants in this webcast here, but in some companies, the executive team sometimes looks at the accounting department and says, hey, just get it done, just work harder, add more spreadsheets, just get it done. But if we're able to say, hey, listen, let's move beyond that and let's see the strategic value of aligning these goals, we think there is significant opportunity to benefit. So that's step number 2, making sure that we're aligning with the executive team. Step number 3 is the 3 R's: research, ROI, and roadmap. David.
Yeah, so now we got to roll up our sleeves and really kind of get busy with, doing some research, understanding what the landscape looks like, understanding both, solutions in place, which components really need to remain in place, what, the opportunities are to really, work differently within those solutions to address some of these core needs, or maybe we need to think about add-ons or other solutions. So do our homework. Partner with a trusted advisor. Should you, kind of go out and have to, do all this homework on your own? We always think of it as boiling the ocean. Do you need to try to learn everything there is to know about this? Well, there's an opportunity to work with, trusted advisors, those who already know what that landscape looks like. That is really kind of a core area of focus for RKL. We focus on process automation. We focus on improving efficiency and effectiveness. And so we've got a pretty good understanding of the landscape, and happy to engage and share what some of those opportunities, what some of those products, solutions, and really opportunities for improvement are going to look like. And then really align that with your requirements. Are we actually solving for those things that are really the most challenging, the most vexing for the organization? So too often, we've learned that you can sit through some absolutely wonderful demos that talk all about, maybe what their solutions might do, their point solutions might do. But we really need to make sure that there's alignment with what our requirements are. Are we actually solving for our problems? And then make certain that we're also looking for return on investment and thinking back about that prioritized list. If we've kind of said, look, we think we need to start with X and move to Y and then on to Z, hopefully the prioritized list is going to be, based upon what's going to be most impactful to the organization, where we're going to recognize some of that most significant and immediate return on investment. And so we'll just, continue to use that prioritized list to help guide our energies and our efforts. But then from there, we look to a roadmap. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, David. So we research, hopefully we contact RKL. I just realized I blew the subject of this slide. It should say research, RKL, ROI, and then roadmap, but all right, we'll know for next time. The roadmap, there's 3 different paths, and none of these are right or wrong. It's really about what your organization can handle, the character of the organization, as well as what you feel like is the optimal path. Some folks are saying, you know what, let's start with the low-hanging fruit. Maybe we want to knock out employee expense management or AP automation because those can be done fairly quickly, fairly easily. Others are saying, you know what, we need to do something a little bit more fundamental, kind of laying a new foundation. We need to lay a new foundation with core financial management, and from that, grow from there, because we can add a lot of pieces and parts on the periphery, but if we don't nail the foundation, if we don't get a new foundation that we can grow effectively upon, then we're probably in a bad spot. So laying the foundation, kind of starting at the core solution and building from there is another option. And then for those who are really adventurous, we just call it the big bang approach, to say, wow, we got 3 things and let's do it all at once. It's going to hurt, but we'll just try to get through it. We'll plow through it. That one may not always be the best approach unless you've got plenty of people who can help to spearhead and oversee and coordinate the various efforts. So just, again, not one of those is optimal for every organization. You just have to know what you're capable of and go into it with your eyes wide open and go from there. So those are some of the ideas that we're saying: root out the unproductivity, align with the executive team, and then do your homework to making sure that the solutions are going to match your requirements, and then have a plan to be successful. So now what we want to transition into is our top 10 automation ideas. And just a couple of thoughts here before we get going here on the top 10. These are not in order of importance. They're all important. They all have strategic value. And these are some of the ideas and strategies that our clients have implemented, and we have helped them to do so. And so whether you look at all of these and say, wow, I could never do all of those, just try to take 1 or 2 or 3, start there and build from there. And of course, at any point, we would be happy to be a resource for more information and assistance in identifying ideal solutions and in the implementation process. So David, we're going to go ahead and start with a very popular one called Dimensions, and take it away.
Sure. And so what we've learned is that for many of the legacy accounting products, they were designed at a time where they thought the ideal approach for kind of recording account numbers and doing data entry was based upon a multi-segmented GL account number. In other words, an account number that was made up of maybe the natural account plus some additional segments that identified things like department or location or entity or project. And then further, those same accounting systems would require users to build out a fully vetted list of every possible combination that the end user would ultimately be able to code a transaction to. And then finally, it was up to the end users as they were doing data entry to do the cat and mouse, find the correct combination of values, and that's what they would go ahead and code the transaction to. But I would tell you that's very much the legacy approach. That is what the older solutions, all kind of adopted as the preferred approach, and not entirely certain why. Because I think metaphorically, as we think about it, today, when we put information in a spreadsheet, we put information in a database, when we're doing any kind of analytical work, we don't jam everything into one cell or one column and say, now let me do my analysis. Instead, we kind of spread it out, and we say, in this column, I'm going to put this piece of information. Another column, I'll put a different piece of information. Then I can filter and sort, subtotal, and report. And that's really what we're looking to try to do within the context of our own accounting system. And so Mark, go ahead and next slide. And so the concept is we want to do something called dimensions. And really what that means is we're going to say every one of these, what has been kind of all pushed together in a single long concatenated string called a complex or multi-segmented GL account number, will now be broken apart. And every one of those discrete values are what we're now going to call a dimension. And so our account numbers will still exist, our natural account will still reference that, but everything else winds up in its own kind of separate, pull down list: entity, department, in this case, project, title, genre, season. So as we think about those things that are, very specific to entertainment. And so if we want to slice and dice and report and summarize, we want to create mini P&Ls on anything, then chances are that needs to be a dimension. And so any modern solution should support that dimensionality, the ability to tag, each of those, relevant attributes with each transaction. And then when we go back after the fact and say, I want to report on season 1 for this title, I should be able to quickly, easily, readily pull that right back out, because it's, those data tags have been associated with each of the relevant transactions, and I can quickly, gather and report on that information. Mark, go ahead. And really then that should pull all the way forward into really not just, kind of traditionally styled reports, but even support really what I'll call XY reporting, or some great charts and graphs. And in this example with Sage Intacct, which is a preferred solution we found for the entertainment industry, we've got an opportunity to summarize upon, this information and slice, dice, and really report on all of this information in ways that are going to give us amazing insight and visibility in real time in terms of what's going on in the organization. So we're not managing over our shoulder 1 month in arrears, or a week or two after month end closing. Instead, we've got operational and financial information that's near real time, and it's not just debits and credits. It's also things that really are going to be impactful for the business, and it changes the way we think about the solution. It becomes a tool for us to help make better decisions, and not just generate kind of the standard financials at month end. And at the heart of all of that is this dimensional approach, in really giving us the ability to tag transactions and bring that all the way forward into amazing reporting in real time, and to help us make great decisions. Mark?
Yeah. Excellent, David. And I would agree, that would be one of those things where our clients have significantly reduced their reliance upon Excel for reporting and analysis because of data dimensions. And another component, number 2 here in our top 10 list, is the ability to effectively manage multiple entities, legal entities. And we say effectively manage because nearly any financial system will allow you to have lots and lots of entities. But how you're managing them is really critical. All the attendees know that the entertainment company industry or entertainment industries create a lot of entities. All the projects and other things that they're working on require legal entities, special purpose entities. And so you need a solution that will manage those in an elegant way, allowing for unlimited entities, but also to have a shared chart of accounts, shared vendors, shared customer lists, and the ability to quickly move in and out of those entities without all sorts of manual effort. And then what you get from that is automated consolidations, automated things like intercompany transactions and allocations. And for those that have international requirements, multi-currency, or entities with different base currencies, the ability to quickly consolidate all those back to the corporate entities base currency. So multiple entity management, really, really important for growing entertainment companies. Keep them out of Excel, keep them away from manual processes and all of the inaccuracy and inefficiency and delays in insight that are typically associated with relying upon more Excel work for consolidations and other multi-entity tasks. So that's number 2. Number 3, switching gears a little bit from perhaps some of the core GL and financial requirements, is AP, invoice, and payment automation. And this is something that more and more companies are familiar with, and even in this last year, because of the pandemic and the work from home requirements, have begun to think about and or implement. But as we think about reducing or eliminating paper, and we're going to focus on AP, there's some really nice AR automation capabilities as well. But I won't read through all the chevrons there on the top, but there is a better way than pushing paper for approvals, for signatures, for making sure that an invoice gets paid. The old way there that you see is not ideal, and the new way that uses technology to be able to automatically capture invoices using machine learning and artificial intelligence to be able to code them, route for approval based on various components in the invoice, be able to approve on a mobile phone, anywhere there's an internet connection, and then be able to make payments the way that your vendors want. There's a significant opportunity to do this. This is some of the low-hanging fruit. There's a couple of these that sometimes people start with, low-hanging fruit. You can add it to what you've currently got and provides a lot of benefit, a lot of inefficiency. Employees are not spending the same amount of unproductive time to be able to process these transactions. So really compelling, and something from an invoice and payment automation exercise, there's a lot of opportunity to improve strategic worth. So with that, I want to turn it over to David again, and he's going to share a success story from one of our longtime clients.
Yeah, Mark. And so we are just super proud of, so very many of our clients. In this case, we wanted to kind of highlight Skydance Media, very long time client of the firm. And this is where we're going to see a lot of those themes now starting to come together. What were they challenged by initially? And as we thought about that unproductivity audit, there I go, we owe you another quarter. And then the results of that and how that has really helped the organization not only improve efficiency and effectiveness, but really changing the role of finance and accounting, as we kind of shared earlier. So previously on-prem, legacy software, kind of that chart of accounts that was kind of multi-segmented, and really just a lot of inefficient, manual, redundant processes. So as I read all of that, as I think through all of that, none of that screams efficiency, effectiveness, and, or strategy to me. And so again, thinking about flipping that pyramid that we presented right at the outset for real-time reporting, improved efficiency, integration, and all of those collectively, just help rebuild the finance and accounting function, and really enabling the entire team to become far more strategic in their role in the organization. And again, just super proud of Skydance and all the great content, all of the great work that they've done over the years, and they're just ongoing trajectory and our opportunity to continue to work with them. Mark?
Excellent. Yeah, thanks. So moving on to number 4, we talked about dimensions, multi-entity management, AP automation, and now budgeting and planning. And you see there a number of people on your screen there surrounded by Excel spreadsheets, and a budgeting and planning process from a growing entertainment company. That means that there are lots of spreadsheets and they're flying everywhere. So if you look quickly, you'll see those spreadsheets flying everywhere in the screen. You see that? All right, just once more, just because it was so fun, right? There they go, boom, flying all over the place, right? This is not ideal. This is not strategic. This is how you get version control problems and security problems. This is how you get final. And then, hey, it's final. And then somebody says, oh, I got one more update, and the whole process falls apart. Really inefficient, not strategic, and a big problem in growing finance teams. So what do we think about for making a change with budgeting and planning? It's not just a better spreadsheet process. It really is an application that will enable the business to be much more agile. And when we think about effective budgeting and planning, we think about 3 C's. Collaborative, meaning finance owns it, but then the other departments are involved in it. That means they own the data, they're accountable for it, and they know what they've done, and they get reports on a regular basis. The second is continuous. A once-a-year budget process isn't the best approach. Business changes fast. The economy changes. New opportunities crop up all the time. That means that there needs to be an effective reforecasting process. Sometimes as often as monthly, sometimes quarterly. At the very least, it would be every 6 months or so. And if you're just in a punishing Excel process, continuous planning is never going to be a reality. Last, it needs to be comprehensive, meaning all of the data from the organization. So yes, it's from finance and ERP, perhaps maybe it's from CRM, payroll, HR. All of these data sources can be used together to have a comprehensive look, a comprehensive model, so that businesses are not just looking in the rearview mirror for what has happened, they are considering and planning for the future. So that's number 4, budgeting and planning. Next is employee expense management. This is another one that often looks like low-hanging fruit to a lot of organizations. And over here on the left, we have a stack of receipts. And if that's the way that you are doing employee expense management, we've got an emoji for you. The crying emoji. That is sad. It's sad for the employees, and it's also sad for the accounting personnel who have to decipher all of these receipts, have to be able to code them effectively, a process that is very ineffective, prone to all sorts of inaccuracies and delays. Now, just a step above that is the person that taped the receipt to the piece of paper and then made some notes to help the accounting team to know a little bit more about it, right? How do we respond to that? There's still some level of frustration, better than the absolute weeping one. But the goal of what we want to be able to work towards is that there are mobile applications that people can access either on their phone or perhaps on their laptop when they're in transit that allow them to be able to code transactions, to take pictures of receipts, and then to be able to route them for approval within the organization. So how do we react to that? Yeah, all sorts of love for the process there that allows people to quickly capture and then to be able to route for approval, and then once approved, to be able to process for reimbursement or payment, depending if it's a personal card or a corporate card. So employee expense management, all sorts of really good options there. If you're still managing it with the piles of receipts and scotch tape and paper and all the rest, I would urge you to say, take that step to evaluate your options. I can guarantee you the employees will be happy and your accounting team will be much more strategic. So next, more automation. David.
Yeah, so similar to some of the emojis that Mark just shared, I'll walk through banking automation in a similar kind of way. And for many organizations, we think about doing a bank rec and just the amount of time based on the number of accounts and the amount of activity flowing through there. And maybe, just the opportunity to capture transactions in real time, really just bank reconciliations, turn into one of those just kind of unwanted, least favorite tasks to do. And so there we've got the sad paper bag heads there, because too many organizations, the vast majority, I think, of organizations still find themselves largely, if not wholly, dependent upon Excel in order to do those reconciliations, to do that work each month over month. So let's just move to the right for maybe a better outcome here. And if we've got an opportunity to take that banking detail, at least pull it into a spreadsheet, get it all dressed and ready, and camera ready for import into our ERP solution, then maybe that's a better outcome. And we would agree that's definitely better. And by the way, I know you've all probably done the mathematical formula that's showing there, but for those that are maybe still trying to do the final math on that, that means better than average. So again, as you think about just what's a better outcome, sure, let's at least do some form of automation, connect our bank to download those transactions to Excel and bring those into our ERP solution. But ideally, we're going to want a direct integration with the bank where, every month at least, and maybe even more often than that, we're pulling transaction activity into our ERP solution, getting an opportunity to reconcile in real time, record in real time. And that not only reduces the amount of effort we're going to spend at month end, because it doesn't become this grand event at month end. It's no longer holding up month end close while we quickly scramble to reconcile all these accounts, but we'll more immediately be able to see, maybe I missed a transaction, there's a deposit, in transit, there was a wire transfer, there was, a fee or, some kind of charge that we forgot to record. We're going to be able to identify that, record that in real time. And so it's just one more way to really just make certain that we're, just trying to shorten the distance between source transactions and our target system, and really just changing the value of the information because it's now approximating or closing in on real time. It becomes far more strategic, far more helpful, far more useful. Mark?
Yeah, David, tell us a little bit more about how Legendary Entertainment has employed some of these automation strategies.
Yeah, so similar to what we shared with Skydance, Legendary, actually one of our longtime Sage Intacct customers, similarly, they found themselves in a place where they said, we are anticipating some pretty significant growth. Just thinking about, just kind of the trajectory of the organization. When we began working with them, they were rather modest in size. They were located, directly on the Warner Brothers lot, and said, look, before we just start, before we just kind of keep on building upon the platform that we have in place, maybe now would be a good time as we think about our rather ambitious growth plans. Maybe now is a good time to evaluate, is this the right platform to grow upon? And so with that, we had conversations, we were able to transition them to Sage Intacct, and really what they've learned, what they found is that they were in fact able to support tremendous growth, better real-time visibility, integration with other key systems. They really took a very comprehensive approach, not just in the ERP, not just from an ERP perspective, but all the other subsystems, all the other components as well: budget forecasting, AP automation, expense management, month-end close, rights management. And so they said, look, all these pieces need to work together. We want them modern. We want them to be able to support our dynamic growth plans. And that's exactly what they did. So when you talk about just overall success, they started at the very beginning and said, let's do this. Let's put good effort upon good. Let's build upon a platform that's going to support great growth without necessarily having to do more spreadsheets and more bodies to make that happen. And that's exactly the outcome that they experienced.
Good stuff. Good stuff. David, keep it going here. Let's talk about the month-end close process. I'm sure no one on this call has any challenges with their month-end close process, but for those that do, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and build it. Thank you. And so I referenced it once or twice. I said with regards to bank rec, but really, in many accounting and finance environments, we think of, month-end close, whether you do it 12 or 13 times a year, is really just that kind of difficult week. Once a month where we just struggle to kind of pull it all together, do reconciliations, just kind of make certain everything balances, agrees, generate reports, fix, or adjust underlying information, maybe run the reports again. Ultimately, 5 to 10 days in, we think we're done. We think we've got it all. We're ready to push done and, share that out, across the rest of the organization. And is there a way to kind of revisit that entire process, move it, really kind of shorten that so it doesn't take near as long. Maybe it shouldn't be near as punishing, and maybe even some of that is something that some of that work can be done more real time, similar to the bank integration that we just talked about. But month-end close automation, helping with the reconciliation process, really is something a solution like Flowcast assists with. But as we kind of think our way through, each of the steps, we want to make certain that we understand where the opportunity for improvement is. So it's not just a -5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then 5 or 10 days after. Let's really compress that entire timeline. And so we're going to just go about a much more efficient close. And so we're looking for a solution that's going to integrate with our accounting solution. It's going to, properly tie into Excel schedules and, those reconciliations. We're going to make certain that we're looking at all the balance sheet accounts, make certain everything ties out, that we've got backup, that we've got agreement between all the numbers. So again, we're confident about the numbers that we're publishing, and we're reducing the amount of effort and time to go ahead and close. So again, so often we're focusing on efficiency, improvement, reducing the amount of time, but also keep in the back of your mind that this, as the organization potentially wants to pivot new lines of business, as the organization grows, as the organization changes, we want a platform that's going to support that without necessarily having to completely redo everything or add more bodies, add more spreadsheets. And so again, all of this process automation that we're talking about, in no small way goes to support that. Mark?
Yeah, good. Next, number 8, we are on the home stretch now. Next is artificial intelligence. You may have heard lots about artificial intelligence. Maybe it's machine learning or even robotic process automation, all sorts of opportunities that provide amazing gains in efficiency. So here would be one option here. This is a part of our Sage Intacct solution that we've worked with so many of our entertainment clients on. Role-based dashboards, approving journal entries. Hey, wait a second. There's some outline information here that doesn't seem to match historical transactions. There's intelligence in the background reviewing all of the journal entries and saying, wait a second, there's something unusual here. We think that you should review this. Well, this is wonderful and just one example of technology called artificial intelligence, or AI for short. Rather than somebody spot checking, they can't spot check everything. That would take too much time and be too punishing. Now the information, the system is working on all the information in the background based on the universe of data to be able to say, I think you ought to notice these, and then let us know if it's something that, yes, is in fact messed up and needs to be corrected, or if it's fine due to the unique circumstance. So there's opportunities for this type of technology, and as you think about new solutions and making the highest and best use of employee time, think about how to leverage artificial intelligence. Next, David.
Sure. And so we've touched on it a few times, but this notion of saying enter once and have the information flow from one solution to the next, modern systems, modern solutions are built on that concept of integration, of data flow, of really kind of the almost effortless movement of information from source to target. And so as much as we've loved, okay, we didn't really love it, doing lots of manual data entry over all these years in multiple systems, the better way, the preferred way is to look for those opportunities to automate. And that typically happens through something called an API, an application programming interface. Think of that as kind of a common layer that lives between two different pieces of software. So we have maybe a source application where we're doing all of our initial data entry. We want that to automatically flow downstream to our ERP solution. How does that get there? Well, there's a lot of just kind of technical nomenclature on this screen, but really the simplest way to think of it is there's kind of a common layer, and both pieces of software talk that universal language, and so it easily, effortlessly moves from point A to point B because it is able to communicate in that common API, that common language between these applications. And so just the value of not having to re-enter, the value of having that information always up to date is just tremendously impactful on the organization. Mark?
Yeah, that's great. Last thing I'll say here, David, on this slide is that not only does it automate the integration and provide efficiencies and new levels of accuracy, it really means that you're able to have a best-in-class solution where each department and each requirement for different types of software in the organization now means that you don't have to compromise with one system trying to be everything and do everything for the organization. So that's a really significant benefit as well when you leverage a platform with open APIs. Next slide here is our client Spyglass Media Group. Spyglass Media Group, a client of ours, they were struggling in similar ways with a legacy application, very little insight and ability to do analysis apart from dumping lots and lots of data to Excel. Really are impressed with a job that they have done utilizing a platform like Sage Intacct, those dimensions, that multi-entity management, things like AP automation and all the rest. So good job to Kelly and the crew there at Spyglass Media Group. Again, another client for whom we are very proud to work with, partner, and assist in their success. All right, number 10. I saved the last one, and it was kind of an easy one. You shouldn't have to work too hard on this one. I said the cloud, of course. The cloud is an essential platform for automating a growing entertainment company. There are some who choose not to. Perhaps they haven't made the change. It's really only a matter of time. We included 9 bullet points here. That was just because we were limited in terms of the slide geography. There's all sorts of benefits for moving to the cloud. I won't read all of them to you, but it greatly simplifies IT. It facilitates work from anywhere. You can leverage the latest technology. Most of what we've shared with you in the previous 9 is either not available, not possible, or significantly more difficult if you're still on server-based technology. So in addition to all of the technology, it provides a wonderful user experience. Users are just amazed at how easy it is to learn and the many, many benefits that it provides to their day jobs. And as we've been talking about all along, the opportunities for strategic improvement for the department as well as the organization. So that's what we have. That's our time. We're close to the top of the hour, and if there's any questions, we're happy to entertain them. But before we do, it really just wanted to be able to quickly review. We started off with the unproductivity pyramid. We talked about how do we flip that pyramid so that the team members are far more strategic than they are or than they could be if we just maintain the status quo. We talked about the unproductivity audit and looking for things like too many Excel spreadsheets and paper, and how about the data intersections. We talked about polling the team to get their input and then aligning with the executive teams, doing our research, proving out the ROI, and then getting a roadmap to say where are we going to start and how are we really going to get after this automation journey. And in all of that, we talked about top 10, and there's more. We just wanted to give you our top 10 and just wanted to say again that the RKL team would love to be a resource to you to better understand where your challenges are and to provide tips and resources for you to be able to start the automation journey. It sure is an exciting one. David, any thoughts from you as we wrap up today?
I would just add, Mark, thank you for pulling all of this together and sharing these opportunities for just overall organizational improvement. But as we continue to dialogue with our clients, our conversations almost always come back to reimagining what you do, how you do it, because in today's world, the finance and accounting function really has changed. It's not just bean counting and financial reporting. It really is being a strategic asset to the organization. And you want to make sure that you've got the platform that supports that. And so everything that we've shared in our time together today is really at the heart of that, is really helping the whole accounting and finance team, the whole accounting finance function, reimagine and be that strategic resource, ultimately become that strategic resource.
Excellent. Couldn't agree more. That is well stated. Danica, do we have any questions here before we wrap the session? I see one here, Danica, that was put on the chat. The estimated time from concept to implementation. And thanks, Stephanie, for asking that question. I would say, without trying to avoid the answer there, that's a big it depends based on which component of automation. And depending on what you're trying to tackle, is it one component and is it one of these sort of the out on the periphery, or is it something that is central? But typically with the cloud, any implementation time is reduced from perhaps older legacy technology, because it's essentially you want to turn it on, you want to be able to configure it, convert your data if that applies, and then the training process is usually pretty quick. So that would be something that as a part of an evaluation, RKL could provide specific guidance for the length of time from concept through the implementation and the go live. All right. Well, we are so thankful for everyone's time today. We really enjoy these types of topics. We love even more working with our clients to be able to assist them. And please do not hesitate to reach out to me or David and let us know how we can be a resource to you. Thank you very, very much.